Today we're going to take a look at the ANL Fuse Holder and 400 amp fuse for Bulldog Winch Off-Road Winches. This is going to work for 0 to 4 gauge wire. Now the thing that I really like about this fuse holder is that it's going to be a clear construction, so it's going to give you that visible indicator of whether or not that fuse is blown. This is going to be, again, an ANL-type fuse, which just means that it handles higher amperage when compared to other types of fuses. And you'll see in the center there's that little window there that gives us the indicator of whether or not that fuse is blown. Our fuse acts as the connection point between our Bulldog Winch motor and the vehicle battery. So if there were to be too much current pull from the winch motor, this fuse is going to blow, and that's going to prevent your winch from overheating and possibly causing any damage to the motor there. Of course, once that is blown, it will need to be replaced. You can pick up other 400 amp fuses here at etrailer.com if that were to happen. This fuse holder also lets you permanently mount your fuse next to the vehicle's battery, so if you're using this on a Jeep or a truck, it's going to be a really handy tool to keep that fuse protected and mounted. Now the way that we're going to attach that is by putting one end of our fuse underneath the bolt and washer on that metal end. It's going to be the side with that sort of half moon shape and the bolt on top. You want to make sure that it goes underneath the washer as well so it gets a good hold, and then tighten it down with a 5mm hex key. This does not come with a hex key, so you will have to provide that on your own. And it doesn't need to be super tight. You don't have to really grip that down or anything. It just needs to be snug enough so it's not going to move around or come undone, especially if as you're going off-road and bumping this around on the road. So we can slide that in, make sure it goes again underneath the washer and nut, and then you would unthread this end and tighten down that other nut. You'll notice that there is a gasket on either end of our fuse holder, as well as the end of the cap. That's to allow our wire to go into the fuse holder, but also prevent any dust or debris from getting in there and causing any damage to our connection. The other end of that metal holder there is where our wire is going to be attached. That also uses the 5mm hex key, and if we back that bolt back out, you can see that there's a space that opens up. You put your wire in there. Of course, you want to make sure that it's stripped back about a 1/2 inch, and then you can tighten that nut down, or that bolt down, and that's just going to pinch the wire and hold it into place. Then you can reinstall the cap. You want to make sure that you have the wires running through either end of those caps, or the caps on either end, to make sure that it's not going to interfere with putting those back in place, so you'll want to have those in there before you get everything tightened down. So that's what it should look like once we have our fuse in place. You can see through the clear housing that window in our fuse is still very visible, so it just makes it a nice, easy way to see whether or not that fuse is blown without having to take everything apart. Now, as far as the dimensions, the fuse holder is going to be about 5.5 inches long by about 1.5 inches in diameter. The mounting bracket that is attached to the fuse holder, that's going to be about 2.5 inches wide. The mounting holes themselves will be 2 inches center on center in either direction. And that's going to do it for our look at the ANL fuse holder and 400 amp fuse for Bulldog Winch Off-Road Winches.